So it is October 13th, 2019. Been in this house now for 5 years. Been working on the yard 4 years. I didn't do anything for the first year, and I actually took 3 seasons off. I had another project going on. And this is what the landscape looks like. I am very, very pleased with this. As a reminder, this was all grass. There was nothing here except for grass. First time I mowed it, because it's on a corner lot, it took me 4 hours back and forth. I said I was not going to do that again. So I did it again, but I don't do it much anymore. If I spend a lot of time mowing my yard now, it's 45 minutes. Now, you'll notice how the grass is pretty much dead. I mean, it's not dead, but it's dormant. You can see little patches, right? Like I watered this and I watered this. There's a little patch of green. And then I had to water this little plant. You can see right over here, right there. And so there's some green over here, water leaked. However, for the most part, everything is dormant because all of these are desert plants. I don't give them any water. And so, I have a lot of people comment on my videos and they'll say, they'll ask me about the plants, and I think it's important to note where the plants are growing before you comment. It is October 13th, and we have not had measurable rain at this location since July 4th. Think about that for a second. Think about how long that is, and think about when that is. That's the summer in Texas. We're not in Michigan. We're not in Iowa, where we get nice, cool evenings. We're in south central Texas, and it gets hot here and dry. And all of these things require no water. So I'm super excited to go through and look at everything. This is, I've got a couple of succulent pots here on the corner just to add a little bit of interest, a little bit more interest. It's kind of a cool little corner addition, I think. Nice texture variant. This is a Sabal minor, a dwarf palmetto. It is a spineless palm native to Texas. Love, love, love this palm. It's just very cool looking, very cool shape, and it's tough as nails. This is a grave. We put our little dog, we put our little dog right under here, and we put a tree here to mark his grave so that we'd always know where it is. This is a different kind of oak tree than we have in our yard. Our yard has Spanish oaks and live oaks typically, and also cedar elms and hackberries, but Spanish oak, live oak mainly. This is a Monterey oak, so it's slightly different texture of the leaf, very waxy and native. These are black and blue sage, and keep in mind I don't water them, but also it's important to note for these that I've taken a lot of branches and pinned them down, so it kind of looks sick, but if you can see, there's a branch here I bent over and pinned down because I want another one here next year. There's a branch over here I bent over and pinned down because I want another one here next year. There's another branch that comes this way and gets pinned down. I don't think you can see it anymore. It's underneath. But you can see that new growth right there is from the branch. So all of these have multiple branches pinned down. That's the reason they kind of look sick. But next year I want to have 11 of them here. So I pinned down a bunch of branches so that I could have 11. And considering I only started with 4, there's a few branches pinned down there. I've actually never had this before. This is a white mist flower, or a eupatorium. I think it's eupatorium. It's supposed to smell heavenly, which is the reason I put it next to the front door here. It's supposed to smell great, and I'm hoping it fills in this whole area right in here. Apparently, this is my first year having it. There's 3 of them there. Apparently it lays dormant for a long time because as soon as the cold weather came, it's probably put on 4 inches of growth. I can't believe how much growth it's put on in the last 3 days. You can almost watch it grow. It's very fast, but it looks like an aster. You can kind of see the flowers here, which means butterflies are probably going to love it. A couple of crepe myrtles here. These were here when I got here. Most stuff that was here was grass, but there were a few things here. Obviously, this tree was here. Obviously, the pittosporum. This is a huge pittosporum. It's one of the biggest I've ever seen. I do nothing to it. Literally nothing. This is a great plumbago. Becky Kronk from the Texas State Gardener gardening crew. I guess she's the head of the crew. Told me a little trick with plumbagos, and it works great. Man, this plumbago, this is one plant. This thing is huge. It's got to be 6 feet across. Really thrives in this spot. Got some standing cypress here, right here. I've had them for 3 years, and apparently they take 3 years to bloom. And oh my gosh, is that true? Gosh, they take forever to bloom. So I don't even know if I can leave these here, or they just look unsightly. Everything else looks pretty decent. This does not so much. So I got to figure out what to do with these. Maybe I cut them back further, or I don't know. It's kind of a sensitive plant, because if you cut it before it matures, then it dies. See, this is an immature one. This is 2 years old. Here's another one that's 2 years old right here. This guy here, I mean, 3 years old. It took 3 years to get these that tall. I mean, gosh, it's not even tall. Granted, I don't water them, but it's a native wildflower. It should be used to this by now. Yucca rostrata, I put that right up front because I just love that texture. My neighbors call it Uncle Fester. This is a Mystic Spire sage. And you'll notice under here, I experimented with a little watering apparatus. Got several of these around the property. This is just a pot with rocks in it. This is just a 1 gallon sleeve with rocks in it. And I can water those without having to actually water the ground. I can come by here and put in 30 seconds of water there, and this plant will look, all of them have roots into there, and it will look great. I mean, 30 seconds of water, it's hardly any. There's 7 Mystic Spire sages here, so 30 seconds of water is not that much between the 7 of them. You can see that we've gotten some recently cooler temperatures, but they are very thin. I mean, it's post-summer, right? And they've had no water. They're very thin. I lost one this year. In fact, this one, I wasn't sure if I was going to lose it. This one, I did lose it. When I say I don't water them, listen, if I come out here and they're laying on the ground, I give them some water. But this plant has been here for 4 years. It was the first plant I put in the ground. So as a rule, if it's not laying on the ground, I'm not watering it. It's good. This is Jerusalem sage. Again, very hardy sage. I cannot believe how hardy this thing is. It is in full sun, and look at it. It's still fairly thick. There's 3 of them here, and they are about 4 years old. This was another one of the ones I planted first. I just love the shape of the flowers and the backdrop of the slightly silvery gray. I just love that. Jerusalem sage. Mexican bush sage. This is one of my wife's favorites, which is the reason I have it all over the yard. Shauna doesn't know a lot about gardening, but she knows what she likes, and she likes this. She really likes purple. So I try to pair the purple with some gold, as you can see it there. I like purple and gold. One of my favorite combinations. And I've got a whole big bunch of it here. I don't know if you can see that. If I get down low, there's purple here. And then as I zoom in all the way down the path, there's purple. And then out on the street as well, you can see the purple out there, Mexican bush sage. So what I'm trying to do is create, now this is the first year, right? So some of these plants are still kind of small, but create an illusion of all purple along this path. And you can see, first year. This is first year. Wow, do they grow great if you keep them in the part shade. This is Mexican bush sage. This is a Mexican bush sage I planted the same day. Look at it. And look at that one right there. My goodness. It gets 4 hours of shade. Excuse me, 4 hours of shade a day. It loves it. These guys, you know what? I've tried to make these Gulf muleys work. They're just not happy here. So I'm definitely going to move them. Probably here in a couple, I might even move them today, actually. Today'd be a good day for that. Move these Gulf muleys, and I'm going to move them over here with their friend. And these Gulf muleys are going to border the, those are oxblood lilies I have right here. And the oxblood lilies, you can see they're just going out right now. But the oxbloods disappear. And when they disappear, it's really challenging to find them unless you have a marker. So I'm going to put the Gulf muleys here. So also here we've got some flame acanthus, another one of my favorites. Flame acanthus is native to South Texas, and when I sit here and watch the hummingbird garden, in terms of sun, this is the first plant they go to in the sun. They absolutely love flame acanthus. So yeah, one of my favorites, flame acanthus, native to the Pegasus River Valley. all over Texas, and a hummingbird favorite. This is a flowery senna, and I threatened to cut it down this year, and it actually flowered. Oddly enough, I find if you have a plant that isn't blooming and you come out to it and you threaten it, it'll bloom. It's the strangest thing. I had a gardener tell me that. I thought he was kidding, but it works. If you come out to the tree and you go, look, man, you bloom or I'm cutting your butt down. Next year it works. This thing bloomed. Look, great caterpillars on it. It's exactly what I want. I don't even know what kind of caterpillar that is. I'll have to research it. However, this is exactly what I want. This is a butterfly garden. So great, good sign. Caterpillar, eat away. This thing is about 3 years old. I bought it as a 5-gallon, and it took 2 years to do anything. Seriously. Well, the first year the deer stripped it, so that's not ideal. But still, it took 2 years to do anything. So I wasn't impressed, but I am now. I sure hope these are antlions. I see these right here, and I wonder if that's an antlion. Let's see if we can catch him. Is there an antlion in there? I think he might be hiding. Did I lose him? They're pretty small, especially this one will be pretty small. You can kind of see the telltale signs of an antlion. I do love antlions. I was going to actually put some sand out so I could have antlions. I can't believe they found this. I don't even know how these guys move around, but they sure are cool. They eat ants, that's all you need to know. And the ants fall in that little hole right there. They'll fall on the edge, and the antlions will throw sand up at them and eat them. It's like straight out of Star Wars. Texas sage, this is my favorite plant. Tough. I watered this plant the first year, haven't watered it since. It is blooming. It blooms with these nice, beautiful pink blooms all the time. Just love that. I say all the time, they're off and on depending on the pressure. So again, you can kind of see what's going on here. The rock bush sage border. But I also needed a border against Bermuda coming in from this direction too. So again, these are really dry, but it's the end of summer. I mean, I say the end of summer, it was 97 degrees just a couple of days ago. It's October 13th. I think on the 10th we hit 97. These are Salvia greggii. Man, they are sparse. I should probably get out here and water them. These are first years. And you can see the border. Well, it will look nice if they actually ever get a chance to start. It's just been so stupid dry here. I've never experienced a summer like this one where we've literally had no rain, like nothing. You can hear, listen to the ground, listen. You hear that? The ground is crunching under my feet. So got a little coreopsis there hanging on. I can't plant a coreopsis here though because deer eat them. The deer come by and they just eat the flowers. They leave the foliage and eat the flowers. Well, I want them for the flowers, so that doesn't really work. You can see that little middle section. That's just a path in there. It's going to eventually be closed up by the Salvia greggii. They'll get big enough, they'll close that up. And so this is the worst that this garden is going to look. It is going to get better from here because it just got cooler. Today it's about 60 degrees. So this garden is really going to love it. Over here we've got some garlic chives. I put these garlic chives here because this tree waves around in the wind. You can see all the leaves are broken off there, and it rubs at these chives, and I think that it creates a smell. And I noticed that the deer don't walk this way. They don't walk close to the chives. They don't like them, I'm pretty sure. And deer used to sleep in my yard, so I had to move them. Not that they don't eat stuff if they want it, but if they sleep here, then they're going to eat it whether they want it or not. And I can't even get anything started. So I'm trying to get tropical sage started here, and I've tried for years. You can see how dry it is over there. How dry it is. I need to provide it more water here, but that's just not my thing. I just don't provide things water. So I get them going the first year, and then after that, they're on their own. Well, this is a native annual, and it seeds voraciously. So I don't understand why it can't fill in this area, but I think it's just been so dry, honestly. Now this is Mexican mint marigold, and this is going to be the foil to the Mexican bush sage. So, you know, the first year stuff I find blooms kind of at its own schedule, but the second year I find it's usually better. Well, this stuff is all first year stuff. It will bloom more in sync as, you know, probably next year even. Right now, I took all of these are cuttings from these two plants. So these two plants, I just divided, made cuttings there, and made cuttings for these over here, so that the look will be, you know, Mexican mint marigold there, and Mexico mint marigold right up here. This will be yellow, and this will be purple. Again, first year, so it's kind of challenging to, they're not as big as they're going to be, and the spacing looks awkward. Like, why are they so far back from the border, that kind of thing? Well, they're going to get huge. They're going to get big. This is the first year. Besides that, they will have about a 5-foot spread or 6-foot spread whenever they get mature. So I want the limbs to hang out slightly over. They'll slightly hang out over the border here. And this is a little lavender. Kind of looks weird here, and I am going to move it. Lavender just doesn't like it. Maybe it doesn't like me. I don't think it likes this area. But this lavender I put here because the deer, talking about, you know, what deer like and don't, I used to watch them, and they would come right up here, and they'd go that way. Well, I put this lavender here, and they don't go this way anymore. They found a different way. They hate lavender so much that they don't even walk past it. So I'm reluctant to move it, but it's dying. I have to move it. Lavender just doesn't like me. It's one of those plants. If I give it too much water, it dies from too much water. If I don't give it water, it dies because I didn't give it water. I don't know, whatever. I give up on lavender. This isn't the right area for it anyway. It's too much clay. So you can see I've got a Mexican mint marigold under there. It's stretching for the light, not getting enough sun. Not everything works, right? I didn't plan on that happening. So I'll have to fill this border in right here with something different. Probably lamb's ear, I'm thinking. But the Mexican mint marigold, I'm going to move this guy and put him in place of the lavender. You can also see I've got some Esperanzas here. This guy is really interesting. It's his second year. He has yet to bloom. I'm getting extremely frustrated with this plant. You can see here that what's coming out is not blooms. It's more foliage, more foliage. You bend it down here and look. Foliage. There's no bloomage coming out there. Well, you can't see it. Hold on. There's no blooms coming out. It's all foliage. Look how tall it is. So it's got too much nitrogen there. Something's going on there. But it's very frustrating. And I like the height on it. Oh, we'll see. Okay, so that's a bloom, actually. There's the first bloom coming out on this plant in 2 years, right there. Well, that might not be a bloom. That could be more foliage. It's too young to tell. Ugh, it's so frustrating. You can see these back here. This is a first-year plant. You can see it's blooming. This is like a fourth-year plant. This is one of the first ones I planted right here, right there. That's blooming. This one, not at all. So frustrating. It's a lot of height, You know, I put the plumbago in here because I wanted some foil again. There were spaces between these plants because this would grow up like this, and this would grow up like this. And so there was a space, like tunnels through here. So I wanted to put filler in there. These are all first-year plumbagos, and eventually, there's one back there too. Behind it, you can't really see it. But eventually they'll fill in this space quite nicely. And, you know, the Esperanza, by the time that they get big enough to actually cover the Esperanza will have enough energy to get over top of the plumbago every year, I believe. This is Pride of Barbados. I put right next to the front door because it was everybody's favorite. I like it too, but everybody likes this plant. Very spiky, cool flowers. Here's one left. Excuse me. Oh, cool. There's a butterfly on it. Even better. So you can see also the blend, one of my favorite blends of the Esperanza in the background, and then the Pride of Barbados underneath. So the Esperanza is yellow, Pride of Barbados is the orange, light orange all the way to dark orange, and you can see the butterfly on there. Very cool. The seed pods are even interesting. Notice how the seed pod kind of twists. The seed pods are kind of, some of them are twisty. You can see one right here in the foreground, and see over here. It just adds a cool interest, just a really neat, different looking interest. Again, more succulents and lamb's ear. Here we have Greg's mist flower, four-nerve daisy. The Hama noxus is so tough. I'm using the Hama noxus as a border for the mist flower, and I know that sounds weird, but the Hama noxus is going to have some pretty stout roots. This stuff, these little yellow flowers here, the Hama noxus or the four-nerve daisy, so those little yellow flowers right there, that stuff will bloom on New Year's Day. It is obviously not affected by the above ground. It is living below ground mostly. It is, I have not seen it die back from lack of water or lack of temperature or too much cold. You can see that there's some young ones here that are holding the border back. We're gonna, we'll make sure that they hold, but you can also see how well it's holding back the mist flower right here. It just kind of gets thick enough that I believe that this would hold back the mist flower. I don't think the mist flower is going to be able to go over top of it. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll see next year. But this is what happened with the mist flower this year, and it didn't go over top. And it started the year right here, and it still didn't go over top. This is one of my favorites. This is a sweet almond verbena. Beautiful, beautiful scent. Interesting flowers. Very leathery leaves. I'm not as impressed by the hardiness of it. Like, it seems to need more water. But this is the second year for this plant. So it smells so good, I want it here. And it's also right next to the hose bib. Hose bib right there. So, it can always get a little drink. It's pretty easy for that. This is my tuberosa milkweed. One of my biggest frustrations in the garden. Asclepias tuberosa. This stuff is supposed to take 4 years to mature. It's its 4th year. I was really hoping for big things this year, and I did water it. This is one of the few things that I do water here because it's butterfly food, and I want it to be big and bold. This is 4 years of growth, and this is after watering. I mean, I've seen pictures of this stuff where it looks nice and big and beautiful. This does not. So I'm really hoping that maybe it needs 1 more year. But this is pathetic. This is butterfly food right here. It's milkweed. This is the Asclepias tuberosa, and this is I think it's Asclepias, I could be saying that wrong. The right there, the one on the right, the one right in the middle of the shot, is the Asclepias antelope horn. That's not antelope horn, but it's called antelope horn, sorry. It's another butterfly food. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this whole thing right here. This whole patch is just going to be milkweed, and just try and build up my butterfly food right in this area. You can see the rocks here that are marking where I've planted seeds. I've put in a bunch of seeds there, so we can only hope. It's very difficult to get them transplanted, so almost have to do seeds. Oh, look at the carpenter bee. It's another cool little fella I see out here, the southern carpenter bee. He is right there. Most people would call him a bumblebee, I think. And they're solitary bees, so that's kind of cool. Here's the other plumbago. And this plumbago actually it's interesting that these are blooming now, because all year these had not bloomed. Well, they're kind of sparse, and this one's now done blooming. But this one was blooming great. And same little theory that Becky Crunk taught me about. Plumbagos love a certain environment. And if you give them just that right environment, man, they'll bloom crazy. This is, I had some Blackfoot daisy here. I really wanted to put a white against this sort of light purple. See the light purple aster color of the Greg's mist flower? Well, I really wanted to put a white next to that to set it off, and so that's why this is here. But initially I had Blackfoot daisy. Blackfoot daisy didn't like it here. However, one started growing. I almost picked it. Thought it was a weed. Blackfoot daisy. Love it. Gosh, I'd love it if that grew natural. I really want one here. I just think it's a beautiful form. And I've dumped a ton of sand there. So hopefully it has found a vein of sand. I never water it. I think maybe what I did to the others is I watered them too much, even though I hardly ever watered them. I never water this thing. I have watered this plant one time this entire year. And look how small it is. It's just growing. So I'm going to let it just keep on growing. This is a wavy scaly cloak fern. I've got a great idea for these guys. It'll handle some sun, but it doesn't like it super dry because it's still a fern. But it's pretty xeric. I mean, it'll go 2 weeks without water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put these next to my earth boxes. So as my earth boxes overflow from the water, and I give them quite a bit of water, I'll have a heat-tolerant, drought-resistant fern underneath that I think will add a nice texture. Yeah, more about the front is actually... So these guys were here when I moved in. This is a Chinese fire. It looks yellow, but it usually looks red. That was here when I moved in. And I decided to leave it because it adds a nice screen. You can see how I don't shear it. I selectively prune it so that it kind of looks a little more natural. And you can see coming down this way also, I need to selectively prune that a little bit. But you can see that everything doesn't look sheared. That's because I selectively prune, which is you just walk past and break off the branch. That's all that means. There used to be, well, you can see it. You see how close these are here? These are Yopon hollies. Yeah, so remember I said there was nothing here? Well, there were stuff here, but these are planted so close together that they'd form a thicket here. A thicket this close to the walkway, you'd have to shear it. And so you're going to see big dead patches of branches. Not a good fit. These are way too close together. And there was another one here, it pulled up. There was another one over here, it pulled up. I mean, all along here, it was just, everything was too close, and it was the wrong kind of stuff. There were thorns. All this stuff was thorny, and it would stick out over the sidewalk. Well, that's what you want. Oh, let's walk into thorns. Our neighbors love that. So just super, super not well thought out. I left this one. There's one, this is a compact Yopon holly, whereas this one is a compact. This one was a regular Yopon holly. I mean, come on, guys. And then this compact here grows super slow. And, yeah, I just selectively prune it and let it grow. It's a nice stiff form. Very stiff form to the... Oh, look, there's a green lacewing that just flew out. Nice stiff form to the bamboo muley. So the bamboo muley is super cool. Really love the texture of this. Very wavy. And when the wind's blowing, it just really adds a nice dimension. This is very solid, and this Japanese boxwood is very solid, but this is just getting blown around. Very cool. It'll die back in the, or not die back, it'll go back to the ground in the winter, and then comes up like this. This is 2 years worth of growth. It has to be a pretty severe freeze to put this down. I think we got to 18 degrees. We were below 30 for 3 straight days, which doesn't really happen here in Austin very much. And then this came back. So this is 2 years worth of growth, actually 1.5 years worth of growth. And you know, it'll get all the way this tall and nice and thick. So pretty cool. This is very cool too. I like the succulent garden. So these plants in the bottom here are plants I'm growing for people. We'll give these away as presents, not that one. But these down here in the black pots and this guy. But the other ones of these are just cool succulents. You can see the aloe vera is starting to bloom here. Aloe vera is prominently featured here. You know, what I noticed, the reason I reorganized this garden is because look at how much aloe vera we have here as compared to everything else. About 1/4 of this garden by size is aloe vera. Maybe 1/5. But nobody knew we had aloe vera. So I just decided to mass things together so you could kind of see them better. You can see we've got this tall monster here. Tall monster, unknown, but it is very tall and a monster. I mean, it is a monster. Something also cool is I noticed this today is a native poinsettia. This is a native, Texas native poinsettia that we've got here. I've got some back here. I can't keep them up front because the deer will eat them. But I don't want to put them in the landscape because they will get out. They are so aggressive. And they seed, oh my gosh. But I want to keep them, this is surrounded by concrete, so I can keep them in here. Well, this is the only place I get to keep them because the deer will eat them back. So you can see, yes. Yes, so this is a native poinsettia. And it's, a lot of people call it ratty looking, but I think if it's grown in mass, it looks kind of neat. I think so anyway. And it's native. So anyway, it can only live back there, otherwise it gets eaten. Also back here, noticed, is a muldoon. This is Native America's first grape, and there was an industry. This is the muldoon right here, this leaf. And there was an industry around the muldoons, apparently. This is a vine that will grow up to 70 feet. And yeah, so I guess I might grow one just for grins. But yeah, so back to the succulent garden. I kind of got sidetracked because of the native poinsettia. You can just see things are massed together. This is massed here. These are massed kind of here. You got the grays over here. All the way down, kind of the same. Even though it's gray, it's the same leaf shape. Down here, it kind of turns into a blue. And so, this is what I got going on here for the succulents. Sure do just love this. I mean, this was all grass, every bit of it. There was nothing here except for grass. All the hardscape was put in. Plants were grown. Not everything worked. This is just the front yard. I'm in a corner lot. I got a side yard over there too, and a backyard. Pretty excited to show those.